The sheer audacity. Modun's desperate rearguard buys him a moment, but the Han victory is overwhelming, the spoils almost unbelievable. Then comes the MC's masterstroke from afar, a prisoner of war reformation plan that's terrifyingly pragmatic, forging a new army from the defeated to relentlessly pursue Modun, alongside meticulous plans for every consequence of the battle. The strategic depth is astounding. Just as you think the ground war was decisive, the Fubo warship under the brash Xuetu arrives like a phantom. The nighttime annihilation of Modun's lakeside camp by 60 cannons is pure, unadulterated terror. Modun escapes again, but the Fubo's mission to float on the water caused trouble, punctuated by Xuetu's chillingly casual order to grab livestock for meal improvement amidst the inferno, promises a new, inescapable nightmare for the fleeing chieftain. His lairs are no longer safe. The lake itself has become an enemy. The Fubo swiftly set sail again. The target had been exposed. As long as Modun wasn't a complete idiot, he would definitely strengthen his lake defenses at new strongholds. Future sneak attacks would become significantly more difficult. Xuetu pondered for a moment and decided against stealth. He directly ordered full speed ahead. They had ships and speed. Their game with Modun was all about exploiting the time difference. What are you looking at? What are you going to do about it? Sure enough, just as Modun, disheveled, rolled into his second stronghold, the Fubo appeared like a ghost by the stronghold's lakeside. Another round of long-range cannonball greetings ensued. Modun was so terrified he didn't even see which way the stronghold gate faced before plunging deep into the grasslands, running faster than a rabbit chased by a dog. After 2 consecutive bombardments, Modun finally figured it out. These Han tribe bastards, relying on their strong ships and powerful cannons, were planning to uproot his lairs one by one, playing a game of whack-a-mole. Having understood this, Modun became quite brazen. He didn't dare go to his other strongholds. Instead, he immediately dispatched his personal guards to urgently drive the herdsmen and livestock from various strongholds deeper into the grasslands. As for himself, he dove headfirst into the vast grasslands, playing hide-and-seek, refusing to show his face, terrified of being singled out by cannonballs again. Meanwhile, on the other side, 3 days after Modun's main lair was bombarded to smithereens, Xuetu, leading 10,000 elite Han tribe cavalry plus 20,000 newly defected nomadic cavalry, and Xuetu's 3,000 men, a total of 33,000 troops, marched majestically towards Modun's old lair, banners fluttering, dust billowing. The result? Before the main force even reached the location, they encountered numerous routed soldiers of Modun along the way, scattered like kites with broken strings all over the grassland. Xuetu barely had to lift a finger. The moment those routed soldiers saw the Han tribe's overwhelming, seemingly endless forces, their legs turned to jelly. They scrambled to throw down their weapons and raise their hands, shouting, "Spare us, good sirs, we surrender." A few stubborn ones who tried to slip away were quickly surrounded by Han cavalry, and Guai, obediently, became prisoners. Xuetu continued his march, collecting surrendered soldiers along the way like picking up beans after autumn, finally meandering to Modun's main camp. Good heavens, the sight before him could be summed up in one word: miserable. It was a scene of utter devastation. Everything that could be smashed was smashed. Most of the warriors and herdsmen had long since fled, leaving only a few unlucky herdsmen scrounging for food in the ruins. This place had just been cleansed by the Han tribe's cannons. Everything destructible was thoroughly destroyed. The herdsmen who remained probably figured the Han tribe wouldn't launch another surprise attack anytime soon, so they simply lay flat and continued living amidst the ruins. But when they saw tens of thousands of Han tribe cavalry charging over like a dark cloud, they merely lifted their eyelids numbly, not even bothering to run, let alone resist. To be honest, from the moment they chose to stay, they had automatically drawn a clear line between themselves and that unlucky fellow Modun. Even if the Han tribe came, they couldn't possibly attack them, these honest folk who had already given up, again, could they? Really take them away? That was fine too. They had long heard that life in the Han tribe was comfortable, If they could secure a peaceful latter half of their lives, they would raise both hands and feet in approval. They just hoped there would be no more fighting and killing, no more senseless deaths of loved ones, and that their livestock could graze peacefully by the lake. Such a life they wouldn't trade it even for immortality. For these peace-loving herdsmen who yearned for a better life, Xuetu naturally and cheerfully accepted them all. But he was incredibly frustrated. Inquiring from the herdsmen, it turned out their own big ship had already cleared the field here a few days ago. He had led such a large force, charging over aggressively, only to find no serious battle to fight, just picking up prisoners along the way. What kind of a situation was this, BQ? Frustrating. However, even a mosquito is meat. Having picked up so many people and livestock, plus mountains of cattle, sheep, and leather goods, it wasn't a completely wasted trip. After carefully questioning them about Modun's and the Han tribe ship's movements, Xuetu understood perfectly. Their chieftain intended to take down Modun's lairs one by one, and Modun, that fellow, had probably figured it out too, hence his game of hide-and-seek across the grasslands, other strongholds. They probably wouldn't escape being bombarded either. Thinking of this, Xuetu immediately dispatched a large number of scouts, like releasing pigeons, to reconnoiter Modun's other strongholds. He himself led the main force, continuing to gather surrendered soldiers while advancing majestically towards the southwestern grasslands, preparing to give Modun's fleeing routed army an unexpected surprise along the way. Those wise men, who understand the times among the surrendered soldiers, in order to strive for lenient treatment, were incredibly cooperative, spilling all the intelligence about Modun's various strongholds like beans from a bamboo tube. Xuetu was overjoyed, setting up an ambush in advance, waiting for the fish to take the bait. Consequently, Modun's remaining few strongholds, under the pincer attack of the Fubo's long-range artillery fire and the enthusiastic greetings from Xuetu's ground forces, failed to organize any decent resistance. Xuetu merely had to bring out those 10 field cannons, fire a few dong-dong shots, and the other side would immediately cry for their parents, discard their armor, and scatter like birds and beasts. Then came the much-anticipated collecting. Equipment and heads phase, easy and enjoyable. In less than a month, all of Modun's assets, including a large population and vast amounts of supplies, were graciously accepted by the Han tribe. Modun himself, however, vanished as if he had evaporated from the face of the earth, disappearing without a trace in the vast grasslands. Even the Zhangwu Guard secret agents you had planted by his side lost contact. The entire grassland couldn't find a single hair of that bastard. When this news reached you, you merely curled your lip in disdain. Modun dead. What kind of international joke was that? That fellow was like a cockroach, extremely resilient, with a personality like a stone in a latrine pit, stinky, hard, super tolerant, and utterly unwilling to admit defeat. To think he could be so easily taken out of the picture? Too foolish. Too naive. You immediately decided to have Xuetu commanderies spread the word. Whoever could eliminate Modun, whether bringing him back alive or dead, would be handsomely rewarded by the Han tribe. Gold, silver, and jewels in abundance, noble titles to choose from, guaranteeing his entire family glory and wealth, a life of luxury, free from worry for generations. Which herdsman on the grassland wouldn't have their eyes turn red in heart, pound upon hearing this news? But the grassland was so vast, where could one possibly find him? This high reward wanted notice could only rely on some lucky blind cat stumbling upon a dead mouse. The war, which had lasted for over a month, finally came to an end. The Han tribe, apart from consuming a large amount of ammunition, suffered negligible casualties and easily achieved a glorious victory. Although Modun had become a missing person, it couldn't stop the rolling wheels of the Han tribe's development in the slightest. From this battle, the Han tribe gained a net population of about 60,000. 10,000 unlucky souls were directly enslaved and put to work on infrastructure projects. Of the remaining 50,000, 30,000 were able-bodied young laborers, and the other 20,000 were women and children. These were all precious human resources, and in your hands, there were plenty of uses for them. The most pressing matter now was to firmly grasp the population and land just seized from Modun, lest that fellow make a ghostly comeback someday. You stroked your chin, pondering for a long time, and finally, with a wave of your hand, decided to establish 2 more commanderies on the grassland. One would be located at Modun's original main camp, and the other at another of Modun's important strongholds. That place was near the southern coast of the continent, conveniently situated between the Bamboo Island Strait and the Great Grassland Lake. There was also a not very high mountain range nearby, with abundant water sources and lush vegetation, a truly auspicious land, perfect for farming, fishing, or herding. Once the development strategy was determined, a series of your orders and appointments flew out like snowflakes. Chai Duo was ordered to lead the Qianyu Guard to garrison Modun's original main camp, command 10,000 households of herdsmen, and establish Zhangwu Commandery, signifying the Han tribe's display of military might. He was also to be equipped with 20 cannons and instructed to quickly build a city and develop the area. The Huban Guard was split into 2. The Jinghai Guard and the original Huban Guard, each with 1,000 troops. Vacancies were to be filled from the meritorious surrendered herdsmen from this war. Xuetu, the original Huban Guard's army Sima, was promoted 1 rank to temporarily act as the commander of the Jinghai Guard. He was to lead the Jinghai Guard and 20 cannons to another of Modun's important strongholds, establish Binhai Commandery, and similarly build a city and develop the area, also being given 10,000 households of herdsmen under his command. To better manage and demarcate territories, you also formally named that great grassland lake Honghu, Vast Lake. The 3 commanderies on the grassland, Kaiyuan, Zhangwu, and Binhai, were all built along Honghu, and could henceforth be collectively referred to as the 3 Honghu commanderies. The main transportation would rely on Honghu's waterways, and all 3 commanderies were to build docks, laying a solid foundation for future waterborne transport of goods. Xuetu remained the commander of the Huban Guard, but you ordered him, after reorganizing the Huban Guard, to immediately lead 10,000 households of herdsmen to Tuohai Commandery, temporarily garrison there, and waste no time in training a new army of 10,000. As for your purpose, you kept your lips sealed, not revealing a single word. But with Xuetu and Deshu's not-so-dull minds, they could easily guess most of it. Stationing 12,000 troops in Tuohai Commandery either meant preparing to discipline the Tang tribe or taking advantage of the convenient seaport, preparing to use Tuohai Commandery as a springboard to send troops for a little excursion to Bamboo Island. But a deeper possibility was that, ostensibly, the troops were placed there to deter the Tang tribe, while in reality, they were sharpening their knives preparing to make a move on Bamboo Island. This approach best served the Han tribe's core interests. After all the population and livestock were allocated, the remaining slaves were directly escorted back to the Han tribe's main base and assigned to various construction sites to contribute their light and heat to development. At the same time, a considerable number of miners could be rotated out from Dongxin Commandery, and these miners could then be relocated to several newly established commanderies to reclaim land and farm. It wasn't until the end of the 2nd month of the Jianyuan's 2nd year, after all the newly established commanderies and relocated populations were settled, that you ordered another comprehensive census. The results of this census showed that the Han tribe already had a registered population of 327,963 people, plus 14,276 slaves. Moreover, the registered population was still soaring, with the main growth points concentrated in 4 areas. First, the mountain people recruited in Tuohai Commandery. Second, the herdsmen recruited in the 3 Honghu Commanderies. Third, the immigrants lured by Yu Ye from the northern temporary camps. And fourth, the wild folk recruited by Jing Yan in Dongxin Commandery. These 4 places were currently the Han tribe's main sources of population. However, you reckoned that as the Han tribe's territory expanded and more resources were developed, New population growth points would surely emerge in the future. At the same time, to further stimulate population growth, you issued an important decree in the third month of the Jin Yuan's second year. That was to slash the Han tribe's agricultural tax from the original 40% directly down to 20%. Half the tax burden was lifted at once. This way, with more grain in their homes, the common folk would naturally feel more confident in having a few more children to liven things up. With this, in just 2 or 3 years, the Han tribe's population could easily surpass the 1 million mark. It was also at this time that another very important matter began to be placed on your agenda. That was, where exactly should the Han tribe's capital city be built? As the population and territory grew larger, if you wanted to better manage your domain, establishing a state and proclaiming yourself emperor was inevitable. However, establishing a state wasn't a simple matter that could be decided on a whim. If you didn't even have a decent capital city and a grand imperial palace and hastily donned the yellow robe, wouldn't you become a laughingstock? Although, it was still a bit early to proclaim yourself emperor and establish a state. The matter of selecting a capital city and building an imperial palace had to be started now. You knew that a capital city of such enormous scale couldn't be completed in just 1 or 2 years. Moreover, this was, after all, the future capital, so the construction standards in all aspects had to be top-notch. You even began to consider whether to implement an underground pipe network system for the capital, similar to the impressive sewer systems of later German cities, to completely solve the city's drainage problems. Don't underestimate this. You knew that the historically renowned Han Chang'an city was ultimately forced to relocate and build a new Chang'an city precisely because its water sources became polluted. Such precedents could not be ignored. Speaking of the end of the second month of the Han tribe's Jian Yuan's second year, just as your tribe was expanding its territory on the grasslands and beating Modun to a pulp, Tang Yao finally returned to the Tang tribe by ship. Tang Ji personally went to the shore to greet her. The moment she saw Tang Yao's face beaming like a flower, she herself broke into a smile. No need to ask. Her precious niece had definitely settled the cooperation matter. Otherwise, how could she be this happy? The two strolled all the way to Tang Yao's small, fragrant garden. As soon as they sat down, Tang Yao said gleefully, "Aunt Ji, good news. The Han tribe has agreed to provide us with those seeds, livestock, and technology." "Oh, so smoothly?" Tang Ji sipped her tea, smilingly playing along. "So how did you negotiate with that Han tribe chieftain? Tell your aunt about it. Let me broaden my horizons too." At the mention of this, Tang Yao's previously radiant smile instantly collapsed. She pouted aggrievedly, looking like a young wife who had suffered a tremendous injustice. "I was originally thinking of using my medical skills and those precious medicinal herbs as bargaining chips to exchange for those good things. But who would have thought the Han tribe's medical skills are actually that amazing? No, I should say even better than mine. So, my little scheme didn't work out at all." However, Tang Yao's tone shifted, a hint of smugness creeping in. "The Han tribe is also quite short on medicinal herbs. They're currently figuring out how to establish some kind of, medical inheritance system, and they even want me to join them. They said the two tribes can study and research together, and the results will be shared by everyone. For this, that Han tribe chieftain agreed to provide us with seeds, livestock, and technology. But it's not for free." Tang Yao licked her lips, carefully observing Tang Ji's expression. "They will use trade, selling the items in Duhai commandery. If we want them, we have to exchange things of equal value. This counts as agreeing, right?" After speaking, Tang Yao stuck out her tongue and blinked her large eyes at Tang Ji, afraid her aunt would be displeased and ruin the whole thing. Whether Tang Ji was satisfied or not wasn't very evident on her face, but her wide-open eyes clearly spelled out the 2 words, shocked. "The Han tribe's medical skills are even better than yours?" Tang Ji's voice rose several octaves. "And they invited you to research medicine together. You just agreed like that?" My silly niece, don't tell me you've been completely hoodwinked? Yep. Tang Yao nodded vigorously, her face serious. Their medical skills truly have many miraculous aspects. It was dazzling to behold. If I can learn all of that, I'll be able to better treat our tribe's people in the future. And it's not just medical skills. I also learned a lot about managing a tribe from that Han chieftain this time. His brain is just incredible, too amazing. You can't even imagine. He can actually apply the systems for managing a tribe, to treating illnesses and saving lives. Speaking of her in-depth exchange with you, Tang Yao's eyes practically sparkled, looking every bit like a die-hard fangirl, just short of holding up a support banner and shouting, "Chieftain is mighty." Methods of managing a tribe can also treat illnesses? Tang Ji listened, stunned, her face clearly saying, "You've got to be kidding me." She suddenly had an ominous premonition. Her silly niece, who had never left the tribe before, had probably been thoroughly duped by that glib-tongued Han tribe leader, and duped badly. Yep, it's true, absolutely true. Seeing her aunt's disbelief, Tang Yao grew anxious and quickly recounted the details of her brainstorming session with you, word for word. Especially the terrifying statistics the Han tribe had compiled through their slick operation of household, registration, and equalized citizenry, and how you had managed to drastically reduce infant mortality and maternal mortality rates from a systemic level. Then, she animatedly described how you used the carrot of welfare policies to trick the entire tribe into tearfully volunteering to go up the mountains to gather herbs and down to the fields to plant them. Your glorious deeds. She also mentioned the grand blueprint for the medical college and medical inheritance system that you personally approved. Finally, she even divulged the general directions of the 7 impressive-sounding medical texts you proposed. Listening to Tang Yao's clear and detailed description, the expression on Tang Ji's face slowly changed from initial skepticism to surprise, and finally froze into a dumbfounded look of, "Damn, that's awesome." These things were definitely the Han tribe's unique black technology. Her silly niece really hadn't deceived her this time. Otherwise, with her limited intellect, she could never have fabricated so many convoluted details about tribal management systems. Tang Ji carefully pondered Tang Yao's described systems, the high-level medical research directions proposed by the Han tribe chieftain, and the Han tribe's advanced medical techniques that sounded mysterious, yet seemingly practical. Finally, she let out a long sigh and made a decision. All right, go, you must go. In her view, learning more advanced medical skills from the Han tribe and complementing their own strengths was certainly important, but it wasn't the most important thing. What was more important? It was that her girl, Tang Yao, had actually learned the true scriptures of tribal management from the Han tribe, and it sounded much more complete and advanced than their Tang tribe's current system. Tang. Yu was her designated successor as the next Tang tribe chieftain. Learning these good methods of governance, whether for Tang Yao's own future development or for the future of the entire Tang tribe, was an immense benefit, practically a pie falling from the sky. Besides, the Han tribe had made it clear, Tang Yu's participation in medical research was a prerequisite for cooperation between the two tribes. If she didn't nod and let Tang Yao go, then forget about any seeds, livestock, or technology. Not a chance. So even for these tangible benefits, Tang Yao indeed needed to go to the Han tribe to get gilded. Oh no, to further her studies. Afterwards, the aunt and niece huddled together and discussed the specific methods of trading goods and the issue of what the Tang tribe would use to pay for them. After all, the Han tribe was more than an era ahead of the Tang tribe, and the few local products they had were hardly anything the Han tribe would fancy, which was quite awkward. Regarding this issue, Tang Yao also mentioned the empty-handed wolf snaring, the mutually beneficial win-win idea you had given her. The Han tribe could first lend them some seeds and planting techniques. After they grew the crops, they could use the harvested goods to repay the debt. What was left after repaying the debt would be their own, which they could then use to exchange for other scarce goods. Tang Ji's eyes lit up when she heard this method. She felt this trick was indeed very suitable for the current situation of the two tribes, almost tailor-made. Thus, early the next morning, she dragged Tang Yao along and excitedly rushed to Tuohai Commandery to request crop seeds and planting techniques from Dashu. The first batch of wealth-generating seeds provided by the Han tribe to the Tang tribe mainly consisted of three types: corn, cotton, and sweet sorghum, plus several common vegetables. Cotton was a superior raw material for textiles, producing soft and comfortable cloth. Sweet sorghum could not only be used for brewing alcohol, but also for extracting sugar, both important raw materials for the food industry, practically a top-tier hard currency. These items were all urgently needed by the Han tribe. Whatever amount the Tang tribe grew, the Han tribe could consume, making them perfectly suitable as trade goods. As for corn, Tang Yao had specifically requested it. She reasoned that if the Tang tribe converted large areas of their good land, originally used for wheat, to grow sorghum and cotton, their tribe's food supply would definitely face problems, possibly even famine. To solve this potential crisis, Tang Yao figured she needed to get some high-yield grain crops as a supplement. Corn, with its high yield and ability to fill the stomach, was just right. She had mentioned this to you before, and you had readily agreed. It wasn't that you suddenly had a pang of conscience and became overly generous, but because Tuohai Commandery had already been cultivating corn on a large scale for a long time. The two tribes were only separated by a small river, and there were frequent comings and goings between them, with plenty of furtive glances. If the Tang tribe was truly determined, they could completely find ways to obtain corn seeds from Tuohai Commandery themselves. Such things were impossible to prevent. So rather than letting them secretly steal or buy it, and ultimately earning the Han tribe a bad reputation for being stingy, unprincipled, and tight-fisted, it was better to just give it to them generously. This way, at the very least, they could earn a favor from the Tang tribe. Why not do it? Dashu, the prefect of Tuohai Commandery, having received your instructions and advice in advance, was well aware of the situation and cooperated seamlessly. Upon seeing Tang Ji and Tang Yao, aunt and niece, arrive together to seek knowledge, he immediately and cheerfully had the prepared seeds brought out. Then, he carefully selected some experienced old farmers with excellent farming skills to accompany them to the Tang tribe to guide the planting. During the period when the Han tribe provided personnel for teaching, the Tang tribe would be responsible for their food, lodging, and all daily necessities. Tang Ji regarded this matter with extreme importance, as it concerned the tribe's future development. Tang Yao, too, had some knowledge of plant cultivation, so she was full of anticipation and attached great importance to these high-tech cash crops introduced from the Han tribe. You see, the cloth previously produced by the Tang tribe was all coarse, scratchy hemp. They had never even seen fine, soft, exquisite fabrics like those made from cotton. However, when Tang Yao returned from the Han tribe this time, Xiao Di, on behalf of the Han tribe, had gifted her several rolls of beautiful printed cotton cloth, which Tang Yao cherished immensely. Now, seeing that the cotton capable of producing such beautiful fabric was about to take root in her own tribe, the joy in the hearts of the aunt and niece was beyond words. They were practically blooming with happiness. As for sweet sorghum, plant taller than a person and looking imposing, it was even more extraordinary to the people of the Tang tribe. Before Tuohai Commandery began planting corn, they had never seen such tall grain crops, always believing that all grains in the Fu world should look similar to the short, squat wheat they grew. As a result, when the Han tribe introduced big lugs like corn, sorghum, and giant rice, it instantly refreshed their worldview, making them profoundly understand what the world is truly amazing meant. Looking at the few skilled farmers sent by the Han tribe standing before them, animatedly explaining the characteristics and planting essentials of various seeds, Tang Ji couldn't hold back her curiosity and leaned in to ask, "Old brother, this sorghum, what exactly can it be used for? Does your Han tribe really need this stuff?" Of course, the old farmer who was asked perked up immediately, patted his chest, and said proudly, Chieftain Tang, you mustn't underestimate this thing. This isn't ordinary wild sorghum. This is our Han tribe's unique sweet sorghum. It has many uses. Take a look. The old farmer pointed to the samples he brought and introduced them like prized family treasures. This sorghum rice, when ground to flour, can be eaten as grain to satisfy hunger. It's very filling. The rest can be used to brew alcohol. That alcohol, not only can it be drunk, but it can also be used for medicinal purposes. Whether it's for reducing fever or disinfecting external wounds, it can be used. Oh, right, and for sprains and bruises, rubbing the injured area with alcohol makes it recover incredibly fast. And the stalk of this sweet sorghum, that's a treasure too. The old farmer became more and more excited as he spoke, his eyes shining. Its juice is sweet, sweeter than honey. It can be used to make brown sugar, which is an important seasoning commonly kept in the homes of our Han tribe common folk. Of course, if you say it's a non-staple food, that's not wrong either. And the sorghum heads that are really useless at the end, guess what? They can also be put to use. They can be woven into brooms for sweeping the floor, sturdy and durable. Anyway, this sweet sorghum is full of treasures from head to toe, not a bit is wasted. After listening to the old farmer's extravagant introduction, and looking at the various derivative products made from sweet sorghum displayed before them, sorghum candy, sorghum wine, brown sugar cubes, large brooms, Tang Ji's eyes widened, her mouth agape enough to fit an egg. She had never dreamed that the Han tribe could do so many things with ordinary sweet sorghum. This was simply turning decay into magic. Now, about the Fubo warship. Since it had successfully cooperated with the army to peacefully liberate that fellow Modun's territory, there was no point in continuing to loiter in the Honghu grassland lake. It was purely a waste of diesel. Oh no, a waste of sails. With a wave of your hand, you decisively issued new orders to Xuetu. Have him take the Fubo and first detour to Tuahai Commandery, wait at the river mouth for other ships to arrive and rendezvous, forming a proper Fubo fleet, then lead the entire fleet to sail majestically into the open sea for coastal training. Things like adapting to the maritime climate, circumnavigating islands for strategic reconnaissance, and occasionally firing a few cannons for deterrence, all of it was to be practiced. First, they needed to thoroughly understand the hydrographic conditions of the waters around Bamboo Island, so that the little plan targeting the Shin tribe could be implemented smoothly when the time came. Of course, the Tang tribe was completely unaware of this. They were still dazed, unable to figure out what the Han tribe was up to, with such a large ship constantly loitering on the sea near Tuahai Commandery. Tang Yao didn't stay long in the Tang tribe either. Once she personally saw that the sorghum, corn, and cotton introduced from the Han tribe had successfully sprouted and grown tender seedlings in the Tang tribe's fields, her anxious heart finally settled. Then, she quickly began preparations to depart for the Han tribe to study abroad and further her education. This time, the preparations were much more thorough than the last. You specially sent a large ship and a large contingent of personnel to pick her up, also giving specific instructions to have Tang Yao bring all her usable medicinal herbs, as well as various jars, pots, and tools for preparing medicinal materials, preferably transported to the Han tribe by ship. This way, it would be convenient for her to quickly start her medical research work and achieve results sooner. For this purpose, the Han tribe even specially brought over some large flower pots and directly dug up a good number of the medicinal herbs from Tang Yao's treasured little garden, roots and soil intact. Her various strange medicine-making tools were also all moved onto the ship. After thorough preparations, Tang Yao reluctantly bid farewell to her aunt, set sail, and confidently prepared to head to the Han tribe to begin her new journey of learning. A month passed by in a flash. The ship Tang Yao was on soon docked again, at the shore of Luoyang Commandery. Afterwards, she transferred to a horse-drawn carriage, and after a bumpy journey, arrived at the Han tribe's political and cultural center, Hanyang City. However, the new medical college building was still under enthusiastic construction, and couldn't be officially put into use yet, so her medical research work had to be temporarily put on hold. Consequently, the precious medicinal herbs Tang Yao brought were temporarily transplanted into your spacious little garden. There was no other way. Hanyang City was only so big, and there wasn't much empty land in the city for her to plant medicinal herbs. Nearby outside the city, all the land was privately owned farmland, and you couldn't just forcibly occupy civilian land, could you? Further out, daily management would be inconvenient, and if anything happened to those precious medicinal herbs, the loss would be significant. So after much thought, your little garden had to be inconvenienced for the time being. Medical research couldn't begin immediately, but Tang Yao couldn't just sit idle either. Wouldn't that make her a freeloader? So, with a wave of your hand, you first arranged for her to attend school in Hanyang City as an exchange student. The primary task was to learn the Han tribe's script and language first. Otherwise, when it came to compiling medical books in the future, if she couldn't even recognize all the characters and couldn't understand what was being said, how could she help? She'd just be a nuisance. And to make it convenient for her to take care of those delicate medicinal herbs, and also for her schooling convenience, plus considering Tang Yao was, after all, a young maiden from an outside tribe, for various safety and reputation reasons, Tang Yao eventually and logically moved into your vacant detached courtyard. That detached courtyard was originally prepared for your two little ones who were still babbling infants. But now, your two children were still very young, far from being ready to live independently, so the house was temporarily vacant, perfectly suited for this purpose. Arranging for Tang Yao and her few personal servants to live there, the space was more than ample. Very spacious indeed. It was also Tang Yao's first time living in such an inhumanely luxurious mansion. She was like Granny Lu entering the Grandview Garden. Everything seemed new and fascinating. Dazzlingly bright glass windows, brick and tile buildings that could shelter from wind and rain, warm in winter and cool in summer, waxed wooden floors polished so brightly they could reflect one's image, walls painted as white as snow, solid wood furniture made with exquisite materials and fine craftsmanship, and various soft, comfortable upholstered stools and bedding that made one never want to get up. All of this was countless times better than her Tang tribe's simple little wooden hut, truly like heaven and earth. However, all these arrangements were handled by you through remote control. You yourself weren't. Even at home, not even in Hanyang City. Even when Tang Yao traveled thousands of li to Luoyang Commandery, you, the esteemed elder, did not personally go out to greet her. Since the cessation of hostilities on the grasslands, the Han tribe had entered a major construction mode, as, if injected with chicken blood, several new commanderies had been established, the population was soaring, and large-scale trade with the Tang tribe was about to fully commence. As a result, the original coin production capacity seemed a bit insufficient, somewhat stretched. For this reason, you personally made a trip to the newly built mint on the island in the middle of the lake to oversee and direct the development of several more advanced second-generation coin stamping production lines. Thanks to the successful commissioning of the coking plant and new steel commandery, the Han tribe's steel production was now robust, so the new assembly line equipment also extensively used more sturdy and durable steel-structured machines. However, the primary power source still relied mainly on wind and water power, as steam engines were still a distant dream. Even so, the efficiency of coin production had more than doubled, a truly revolutionary improvement. Just to tinker with this new production line, you stayed on that desolate lake island for nearly 2 months, almost becoming the island lord. Of course, specific research and development work like this couldn't possibly be done by you, the chieftain, personally. That would be too demeaning. You occasionally drew blueprints, offered guidance, and then, when the workers encountered insurmountable technical difficulties, you stepped in to turn the tide and solve the intractable problems. Most of the other time, you were busy with other matters in the Research Institute. This Research Institute was the Han tribe's Science and Technology Research and Development Center, a true gathering place of the strongest brains. It brought together the entire tribe's top craftsmen and brightest students, a veritable Chinese Academy of Sciences for the Han tribe. At the same time, it also undertook the manufacturing of some special precision instruments. For example, the core lighting equipment inside those lighthouses used for navigation guidance was all developed here. There were many other projects currently under development, such as silver-plated glass mirrors, telescopes, microscopes, and even more impressive astronomical telescopes. However, these high-precision, cutting-edge items couldn't be produced overnight and hadn't achieved any major breakthroughs in the short term. You weren't anxious, just letting them research slowly. After all, Rome wasn't built in a day. The rubber research and development team also received new research tasks, mainly 3 brand new rubber products: valve cores, inflatable bladders for balls, and pneumatic tires. That's right, you, a transmigrator from the modern era, had finally set your sights on bicycles. In the Research Institute's spacious bright hall, several oddly shaped self-propelled vehicles were haphazardly parked. There were large, medium, and small all-wood bicycles. Also large, medium, and small bamboo, wood-spliced bicycles, plus 3 models of pedal-powered tricycles. The debut of these strangely shaped, unheard-of new vehicles instantly shocked the research personnel in the institute, their jaws nearly dropping to the floor, looking as if they had seen a ghost. When it came to invention and creation, these people dared to say with their hands on their hearts that apart from their own chieftain, whose mind was full of bizarre and imaginative ideas, they admired no one else. Their chieftain's brain was like it was on cheat mode. All sorts of ingenious ideas came effortlessly, endlessly, making it impossible not to admire him. Although these pedal vehicles were currently still made of wood and bamboo, looking a bit crude, with relatively poor practical performance, and probably quite challenging to ride, they could indeed be propelled forward by human power. This fully demonstrated that your idea was completely sound and feasible. The only problem was that the materials currently used were not quite suitable. As long as suitable materials and manufacturing processes could be found, would there be any fear that this thing couldn't be popularized and promoted in the future? That would be a matter of minutes. Take, for example, the chain and gear transmission mechanism parts, which looked complex yet were ingeniously practical. The researchers in the institute admired you to the point of prostrating themselves, just short of worshiping you and shouting, "Chieftain is a divine being." They racked their brains but couldn't figure out how their chieftain had come up with such a strange-looking, yet exceptionally practical transmission structure. How on earth was his brain wired? After some time, the bicycles you were eagerly anticipating hadn't yet materialized into a decent finished product. Instead, those imaginative researchers, using the system of large and small gears and chains you designed, had tinkered together some unexpected little gadgets, which was a pleasant surprise. For example, someone used chains and gears to create a pedal-powered grinding wheel. Using this to sharpen knives or polish small parts was incredibly convenient, saving time and effort, with excellent efficiency. Another person, also with a burst of creativity, used your variable speed transmission system composed of large and small gears and chains to actually create a small pedal-powered bench saw. By using a large gear to drive a small gear mounted on a circular saw blade, the circular saw could achieve incredibly high rotational speeds. It was exceptionally easy and enjoyable to use for processing small wooden parts, practically a cheat tool for woodworking. Most importantly, this device was relatively compact, could be easily disassembled and assembled, and was not restricted by natural conditions such as wind or water power. It could be quickly assembled and put into use wherever it was moved. For processing small wooden products, this was indeed very crucial, greatly improving production efficiency. Although the eagerly awaited bicycles hadn't materialized yet, seeing that some people could draw inferences and use his design ideas to create other very practical tools, you were also quite pleased, feeling that your efforts hadn't been in vain. Of course, the bicycle project still had to continue. This was an important project concerning the future livelihood of the people. The Research Institute gathered many blacksmiths and casters, all top technical experts in the Han tribe. At the same time, they were also the only group of craftsmen in the Han tribe who currently mastered the unique skill of gas welding. However, in the Research Institute, they were uniformly classified into the metal processing group. As per your request, they first expended enormous effort to cast and polish several types of solid steel rods of different diameters. What were these steel rods for? They were mainly used as cold bones during forging, i.e., core materials for shaping steel pipes. After these core materials were made, the craftsmen then, using the most primitive and laborious manual forging methods, painstakingly hammered out some steel pipes of different diameters. Finally, after processes such as cutting and bending, and then according to the requirements of the blueprints you drew, they carefully welded these steel pipes together using gas welding technology. After much effort, a bicycle frame that generally met the requirements was freshly produced. As for the production of steel chains, it wasn't actually impossible to make them purely by hand. The only thing to pay attention to was the dimensional accuracy of the various parts. Handcrafted products, well, they have low precision, and parts are not interchangeable. These are old problems, considered normal. In order to popularize bicycles on a large scale in the future and allow the common people to use affordable and high-quality means of transportation, you simply went all out and also developed a chain stamping machine. This completely solved the problem of parts interchangeability for standard chains, paving the way for mass production of bicycles.